Hey y'all, I'm here today to talk about drinking, and that is alcohol that I'm speaking about. Of course, you should be drinking a ton of fluids every day, a ton of water, but a big fitness question is, how does alcohol fit into your goals, into your lifestyle? Now, there is going to be a different answer, honestly, from every single person you talk to. I'm going to give my perspective on off-season and prep, how I think it's appropriate, how I don't think it's appropriate, and then also if you are going to drink, the best way to track it if you are doing that. I also think there's times where you shouldn't track it, just like most themes that I have in my videos. It's really context related. So where you are in your journey, at what point you are, where your body fat level, you know, there's a lot of different aspects to this, but I wanted to cover those three topics. So off-season, during prep, and also just if you are going to track it, what is the best way to do that? So as many of you have probably seen on my social media, if you follow me there, I do post about drinking semi-frequently. I love wine. I am definitely a wino. I'm not like a fancy wino, like, oh, I know all of these wines. Like, no, that's not me. I just like good wine that tastes good. I just genuinely enjoy having a glass or two of wine. It's just something that I really like. I also do like just having mixed drinks, and I just like drinking in general. I don't think I should apologize for that. A lot of fitness people won't really talk about this because it is semi-taboo, and you know, it's not really super healthy. And if you don't like drinking, then that doesn't matter, then that's fine. Then good for you. If you don't like drinking, you don't have to worry about the calories, you don't have to worry about anything of that. But if you do, don't feel like you have to completely cut it out from your life in order to be super fitspo. Again, disclaimer, if you do not like drinking, this is, first of all, you should, don't really need to be watching this, right? But don't think that I'm talking, you know, badly about that. I think it's a total personal preference. What I don't like is when people who do enjoy drinking feel bad because other people make them feel bad about doing it. So understand where I'm coming from with that. So I think, as always, it's super context related, and 100% matters where you are in your off season, your reverse, your diet, your peak week. I mean, all of these things kind of come into play. So first we'll talk about off season, and I think that that is a totally appropriate place to drink. I don't really think that that is I was gonna say, I don't think it's a question, but I don't even know what the norms are nowadays in the fitness industry as far as like what coaches say or what other people say, but I think that there is absolutely no problem with having a few drinks in your off season. You know, now, I'm not promoting daily binge drinking, I'm not promoting anything of that sorts, okay? And I do think that if you are putting your fitness goals first, you should be mindful of your alcohol consumption. Obviously, I think that that is a no-brainer, but that doesn't mean that you can't have any at all. You know, I know for me, like at night, I like to have like, you know, a glass or two of wine, like if, you know, every once in a while. And sometimes it's, you know, I'll go for a few weeks, and then sometimes I drink 3 times a week. It just really just depends on the week. And for me, it's less about like a stress thing, because I don't have a drinking problem. And it's more so about just, I enjoy wine, and like say I'm working on something creative, I really enjoy having wine for that. I used to always drink, funny story, when I would do my physics lab reports, and I wouldn't get like drunk, but I would have like a glass of wine, and I always got like really creative, and that shit was so hard over my head. I was like, well, this kind of makes it a little better. But just, you know, in general, so if I'm working on a project maybe, or if I'm maybe editing something, or if I'm just kind of relaxing, like me and Ryan are hanging out, I want to have a glass of wine and we're gonna watch a movie, you know, whatever it may be. So I think that's totally appropriate. Sometimes I track things, sometimes I don't. And like I said, there's times where I don't really drink at all. I don't really want to, or I just don't. And then there's other times where, you know, maybe we'll go out. Well, I don't really do that much, but if I do, you know, I'll probably drink more before that. Or if I'm on a vacation, or I'm in a fun place and we're all ordering drinks. Like, you know, it just really just depends on the context. But off season, again, I think it's totally appropriate. Sometimes, you know, if I'm being more diligent with my tracking, not sometimes, if I am being more diligent with my tracking, I will fit that in. Usually what I do though is, because in my off season, again, prior videos I talked about this, I'm a little bit looser. Sometimes I loosely track, sometimes I don't track at all. And I think both of those are fine, but a lot of times what I'll do just to, you know, hold myself accountable when I look over for the week is, okay, I had you know, XYZ macros for the day, and then plus, you know, I'll write like 1 glass of wine, or plus 2, or if I've measured it out, okay, plus, you know, 150 calories, something like that. Typically I'm only going to drink like a fun drink, like liquor or something like that, if I'm like going out or we are out or something like that, but I'm usually just gonna drink wine. Not really that into beer. You know, occasionally I like a beer, but I'm not gonna buy beer and have it at the house. So for me, normally I know the amount, and I know the amount of calories in the wine roughly. So I'll just kind of make a tally mark of that. Like, okay, had my macros plus 2 glasses of wine. Boom, good to go. I've held myself accountable. It's not really gonna be a huge hindrance to my progress, again, if I'm loosely tracking, and then I just kind of move on with my day. So that is for off season, and I think that that is super appropriate. Everyone's gonna have a different opinion, but that is my opinion. During a contest prep, of course, this changes. Now, a diet is far different than a contest prep. I don't think I really need to make that delineation. If somebody is a lifestyle client dieting, and they are, again, a lifestyle client trying to change their lifestyle, trying to, you know, they're not stepping on stage, there's no real end goal, I think it is totally fine to have a drink occasionally and factor that into your numbers. Ideally, you'd have that maybe on a higher carb day, and that way, you know, you're not really taking away from any fiber sources, and you're still getting, you know, your normal macronutrients, still getting your normal variety of food, but now you just had a drink or 2. And again, I wouldn't, if you are in an active fat loss phase, I wouldn't suggest that all the time, but if you do that every once in a while and you are doing this for the long game, that's more important. I'm not gonna say, oh my God, you had a drink, you are not gonna make any progress for the next 4 weeks. Ugh, how dare you? That's so unreasonable, you guys. Now, if you're in a contest prep, a little bit different. Deadline, shredded in a bikini, kind of a different story, right? For me, perfect example, last year, I've talked about this extensively, I dieted for 28 weeks. And in that time, I would say, you know, I guess before the first show, which is about 22 weeks, I could maybe count on my hands how many drinks I had. I think I probably had like maybe 4. And I can remember exactly, like almost exactly when they were. And it was always wine, except for the 1 week that I took a diet break, and then I had 2, I had a few like mixed drinks, but I was taking a diet break. I've talked about that way long ago, so watch that video. If you are interested. But for me, that was a personal choice. Again, I know my body, I know what I can do, what I can't do. And so like I said, I had, and when I would drink, which was, again, like literally couldn't even count on my hands, I would measure it, or if you go to a restaurant, typically it's always 5 ounces. You can ask, but that's usually always 5 ounces of wine. So just heads up for that. And I would always get wine, like I said, with the exception of, you know, the 2 mixed drinks that I had one time on a diet break in Vegas. So, and I'm just being honest, you know, people might be like, oh my God, that's probably why Lauren's glutes didn't look that good. Let's be honest, you guys. Let's be realistic. And again, if you don't want to do that, that is so fine. I would rather people be, you know, super on top of things, but I made that decision. Again, really go watch that video. I think it would be really helpful in kind of understanding the mindset of that week and how it affected me in a really positive way afterwards. So anyways, back to this. I would say that if you are somebody who's going to maybe have a handful of drinks, that's talking just a several, sprinkle over your prep, I would really limit them, 1, and then at about 6 to 8 weeks out, I would cut them completely. That is, again, something that I've just seen with myself. That's usually when things get, you know, turn up, get pretty serious, and I'm happy if clients are like, hey, you know, I had a drink this weekend, and I'll be like, listen, we'll have this conversation. I understand what you wanted to do. I'm glad you at least tracked it, you were mindful of it, but we gotta stop that now. At some point, there are things that I do. I'm very flexible, but at some point, something has to give, right? So when you are on low carbs, and even if it is a refeed day, and even if you did just have vodka, it's still, I think at that point, going to, I wouldn't say maybe negatively affect you, but you could just use that in a more optimal fashion, right? And doing a contest prep is all about optimal. I try to be as flexible as possible with my approach and my approach for clients as long as I think is necessary. At about 6 to 8 weeks out, you guys, just, I would say no more drinks. Now, the only time that I do change that, I guess, is the night after the show, and this is, again, me personally, even when I have back-to-back shows. The night of the show, I go out and I have dinner, and I eat whatever I want, and I have drinks, because that's usually what I want. I usually have a few drinks, not many, but I usually have like 2 drinks, and then I'll have dinner and dessert, you know, and then I'll just kind of move on. Even if I have a show the next weekend, that's what I do. And again, personal preference, I've done this enough times to know my body kind of a thing. But before that, I would say, you know, 6 to 8 weeks out before your first show, even if you have back-to-back shows, I would just, you know, do that as a rough guideline. So now if you are either loosely tracking this as far as the calories go, or you are rigidly tracking this, like as far as like macros go, this is how I would suggest it. So now, of course, alcohol is not a nutrient. It's actually a toxin in your body. So there is no macronutrient breakdown. So alcohol is 7 calories per gram. Fat is 9, carbs and protein are 4. So what the best way I would say of tracking it, if you are going to fit this into your macros, would be calories. So you can either take out, so I use the 100 calorie example, so you can multiply as needed, obviously. Basic math here. So say you take out 100 calories, right? Take it out of, if you're just doing calories, take it out of carbs and fats. Of course, hit your protein totals for the day and fiber totals also. If you want to track it as macros, which is also fine, 100 calories would be 25 carbs or 11 fat or a rough split. So, you know, for that example, a direct split would be 12.5 carbs, 5.5 fat. So you get the idea. You can split it that way with either just carbs, just fat, or a combination, or you can just do calories and you say, hey, I hit my protein targets for the day, I hit my fiber targets for the day, now I'm gonna reserve some extra calories, you know, 250 calories from carbs and fats for that day, and then boom, that's what I'm going to use for my alcohol tracking. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. I've gotten a lot of questions regarding this. There's just so much different chatter about it, and there's absolutely no right or wrong answer here. There's no right way to drink or wrong way to drink. If you're going to track it, those are really, really applicable, you know, scenarios that I gave you guys as far as either calories or macros. And then, you know, you make that decision. You know, some people absolutely swear off alcohol during prep. That is so fine. Like I said, in several months, half a year of prepping, I can count on my hand how many times that I had, you know, a glass of wine or something. So, you know, definitely limit, you know, either a sprinkle a few or 0 drinks during prep. I would say, you know, 6 to 8 weeks out, absolutely none, just because you want to make sure everything is as optimal as possible. In the off season, I think it's totally appropriate. You can either track it into your daily macros like I talked about, or you can do kind of what I do sometimes in like a note. I either hand track or put it in my notes, by the way. So I'll just write whatever I ate for the day, like my macros, and then I'll hit like I'll type in plus like, you know, 1 glass of wine or plus 200 calories of, you know, whatever. So those are just some examples for you guys. Again, no right or wrong, do whatever works best for you. Think about things in the long-term picture. If you wanna have a drink, that's totally fine. But if you have some short-term goals coming up, maybe it's not as appropriate. But if you're deep into an off season and you're going out and you're going to Vegas with your friends, why the hell are you not gonna have a drink? I mean, don't be so narrow-minded in the grand scheme of things. So everything is context related, and if you are in an appropriate place, go enjoy a drink for me.